Now, the people in Jesus' time, they thought that entry to heaven was earned by observing rules or performing good deeds or making amends for their wrongdoings or even leading a morally upright life. Perhaps some of us here also think and live in this way as well. But Jesus said that none of these ways will provide entry to the Father's house because the only way was through Him alone. The only way was through Him alone. You know, earlier in this production, you heard Jesus calling Himself bread of life. You heard Jesus calling Himself light of the world. But you know, Jesus also said this about Himself in John chapter 14, verse 6. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. But what did Jesus mean when He said that? Firstly, Jesus is the only way to God the Father. The first thing that Jesus said when He meant this, Jesus is the only way to God the Father. In verses 2 to verses 6, John recorded how Jesus described heaven. And He described heaven as His Father's house. He told His disciples that He was going to prepare a room for them in His Father's house. Then one disciple called Thomas asked Jesus this question. And maybe some of us here are asking this question or have asked this question before. How can we know the way to the Father's house? Or rephrase, how can we know the way to heaven? Then Jesus responded to his question and He said this, I am the way to the Father, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Now, the people in Jesus' time, they thought that entry to heaven was earned by observing rules or performing good deeds or making amends for their wrongdoings or even leading a morally upright life. Perhaps some of us here also think and live in this way as well. But Jesus said that none of these ways will provide entry to the Father's house because the only way was through Him alone. The only way was through Him alone. Now, I am a huge Mayday fan. Y'all know 五月天? Maybe you've heard of it. Yes, a pastor can listen to non-Christian music. And I'm a big 五月天 fan. And I remember one unforgettable concert. Now, why do I remember that concert? Because I was nearly not allowed into the stadium. You know, the concert was in Hangzhou, and it was a 2-hour drive away from Shanghai. And I worked in Shanghai from 2007 to 2009. And my housemate and I decided to make the trip down to Hangzhou from Shanghai to watch the concert together. Now you see, back in 2009, getting tickets online, they weren't really so easy. And so we will usually get our tickets off ticket touts. We call them 黄牛票, okay? And it sounds like a really bad idea now, but back then it was very common. Very common to get your tickets from ticket touts. We had done it before, and so we were confident that we will do it again. But I think some of you here, very smart ones, you can almost guess where this story is going. So we finally arrived at the stadium after 3 hours of driving. And I managed to get us good tickets at an affordable price. You have to buy at the right time. You know, when the ticket is almost, when the concert's almost starting, and then everybody wants to get rid of the tickets, that's when you buy the tickets. So I inspected these tickets. And it had everything that a ticket should have. Now, I don't have a picture of that particular Hangzhou ticket, but this is another ticket of another 五月天 concert, and it looks exactly like it. So you can see the ticket. It says 五月天. It says DNA concert. It says 4th July 2009, 7:45. It even tells you it's Hongkou Stadium, middle zone. Row 1, seat 78. Even it says enter by door 1. It looked really legit, the ticket that I was holding on to, a pair of tickets. And so my friend and I, we went through all the ticket zones and we cleared every single stage of our ticket checks until the final stage. The very last door, they use UV light to check our tickets. And then everybody could go through, but two of us, 没有 UV light, 没有那个 mark, 没有那个 ink. And then we were rejected. All the way at the final gate, we were rejected. My ticket didn't have the mark. I was stunned. I was embarrassed. I was fuming. I just spent a couple of $100 to buy fake tickets. But my housemate was really cool. He didn't blame me. And he even said, Joe, don't give up. You drove us 3 hours from Shanghai all the way here, leh. And then he did this cool thing. He went to the official ticket counter and he bought us a pair of even more expensive tickets. Then he looked at me. He said, Joe, all good. We confirm can enter now. It's like rubbing it into me, you know. We confirm can enter now. Let's enjoy the concert. And you can be sure that that was the last time I trusted in fake tickets that couldn't get me to where I wanted to go. Entry was only made possible with official tickets from the official event organizer. So when Jesus said, I am the way, he was saying that the only way to God the Father, the only way to the Father's house, the only way to get to this heaven is through Jesus, who shows us the way to get there. Now, don't you think it takes faith to believe that Jesus is the only way to heaven? You know, it is as good as admitting that your way cannot get to heaven. It is as good as admitting that there's no other way to get there except to follow and depend on this Jesus alone to get you there. You know, there was no other way for us to enter a May Day concert unless we had the official and authentic May Day ticket that satisfies every entry criteria. That was the only way to get into heaven. No, I mean Hong Kong Stadium. And so Jesus isn't just telling us where the stadium is. He's not just telling us how to get there, how to enjoy everything in it. In fact, he's telling us he's the only way to enter. Jesus isn't just showing us the way to God the Father, but it's the only way to get to God the Father.